Burberry. From trench coats to royal legacy, there are brands that sell clothes. And there are brands that sell stories. Burberry belongs to the second category. Its name wasn't born in luxury, but in the mud of the trenches. How is it possible that something created to face the rain and cold became the uniform of British royalty? It's a curious paradox. What began as protection against chaos has transformed into the ultimate symbol of elegance, and it is precisely in this contradiction that the secret of its power lies. Burberry's journey is not just about fashion, but about purpose, reinvention, and permanence. She survived wars, resisted the trivialization of luxury, and was reborn without ever losing her soul. And, in a way, this story speaks to all of us, about the desire to be remembered, to leave a legacy that time cannot erase. Because at its core, what Thomas Burberry built wasn't a coat. It was a manifesto of identity. And perhaps that's why, even today, wearing Burberry is not just an aesthetic act, but almost a silent ritual, a way of saying to the world, I belong to tradition, but I walk towards the future. And it is at this point, between the past and what is to come, that the true story of the brand begins to reveal its mystery. The origins of Burberry, the visionary tailor who started with a simple idea. Thomas Burberry never imagined that, when he opened his small tailor shop in 1856 in the quiet town of Basingstoke, he was sewing the first stitch of one of the world's most iconic brands. He was just a young apprentice with a firm belief: clothes should protect people, not imprison them. While most tailors focused on appearance and rigidity, Thomas observed rural workers facing cold, wind, and rain. And there his obsession with uniting was born: functionality and elegance. The curious thing is that, while the world followed traditional patterns, he dared to do the opposite. He used lightweight, breathable, and water-resistant fabrics when everyone preferred the weight of wool coats. This audacity led him to create the gabardine, an innovative fabric that would change fashion forever. It was like reinventing the wheel in the midst of the Industrial Revolution, a silent revolution, stitched together stitch by stitch, by a man who believed that true luxury lay in usefulness with purpose. Think about it. Great ideas often spring from simple annoyances. How many times have you noticed something that could be improved, but dismissed it because you thought it was too small? Thomas didn't. He believed that a detail could change everything, and it did. The same visionary outlook he had in the face of the British rain is perhaps what many modern entrepreneurs lack today. After all, success, like fashion, always begins with a well-stitched stitch. The creation of the iconic trench coat and its transformation into a symbol of status and protection. When Thomas Burberry created the trench coat, he didn't want to dictate trends. He wanted to solve a problem. British soldiers needed a coat that would protect them from mud, rain, and cold in the trenches of World War I. The result was a functional garment made from gabardine fabric, lightweight, durable, and waterproof. But what was born from military necessity would, curiously, become synonymous with sophistication and power over time. The trench coat went from the trenches straight to the corridors of London's elite. The strength of this piece lay in its duality: utilitarian yet elegant, simple yet luxurious. It's curious how Burberry achieved something rare, transforming the functionality in fashion. The trench coat became the uniform of those who wanted to stand out, without seeming to be trying too hard. It was worn by explorers, intellectuals, and later by movie stars like Humphrey Bogart in Casablanca. Audrey Hepburn in Breakfast at Tiffany's. The piece, created to withstand war, now withstood the test of time. The success of the trench coat reveals something profound about human behavior. We all seek protection and identity at the same time. And, in a way, wearing a trench coat is like carrying an invisible suit of armor, not made of steel, but reliable. Thus, what began as protection against the rain ended up becoming a shield against mediocrity. And curiously, it was in this balance between the useful and the beautiful that Burberry began to build what would soon become its empire. Burberry in the World Wars. When style and functionality came together in the trenches. During the First and Second World Wars, the name Burberry took on a new meaning: resistance. While others saw only the chaos of war, the brand saw an opportunity to serve, to be present in history, literally on the backs of soldiers. The trench coat, with its reinforced shoulders, strategically designed flaps, and functional pockets, became part of the British uniform. It was more than a piece of clothing. It was a silent ally in the fight against the cold, the mud, and the fear. And when the soldiers returned home, they didn't leave their coats in the trenches. They took them into civilian life, transforming the trench coat into a symbol of honor and overcoming. Wearing Burberry came to mean more than elegance. It was a reminder of courage. And that's fascinating, a fashion brand becoming part of a people's emotional memory. Few companies achieve this feat because few understand that true prestige is born from the usefulness that touches the human experience. Burberry proved that fashion can transcend wars without losing its soul. Its coat was not just a product, but a narrative of duty, discipline, and dignity. And it's curious how, decades later, that same garment would be seen on the shoulders of artists, diplomats, and kings. What was once a symbol of war now became an icon of peace, a silent transformation that would mark the beginning of a true era. British identity from Burberry. The rise of Burberry check and the consolidation of British identity. In the 1920s, a simple interior lining would forever change the destiny of Burberry. The famous beige, black, white, and red checkered patternette began as a discreet detail on the inside of coats, but ended up becoming one of the most recognizable patterns in the world. It was impossible not to associate that design with British elegance, a perfect combination of tradition and modernity. The curious thing is that the charm of the Burberry plaid wasn't in its complexity, but in its sophisticated discretion, a trait as British as afternoon tea itself. Over time, the pattern moved from linings to the forefront of the streets, being printed on umbrellas, scarves, and bags. What was once just an interior detail has transformed into a symbol of belonging. Wearing Burberry became a silent gesture of status, like saying, "I know where I come from." It was fashion serving as a cultural flag, and in a way the plaid pattern represented the pride of an empire that valued elegance as a form of expression. This pattern, however, carried something deeper, a lesson about authenticity and purpose. In a world that is constantly changing, few brands manage to remain true to their own essence. Burberry understood that tradition is not resistance to change, but the wisdom of maintaining what is essential. And it is this fidelity to its origins that would pave the way for the brand's rebirth. A turbulent but essential chapter that would soon follow. The brand's rebirth, crises, reinvention, and a return to authentic luxury. Not even Burberry escaped the pitfalls of success. In the 1990s, the iconic plaid, once a symbol of the British aristocracy, was trivialized. It became a mass-market accessory, replicated in copies, and used outside the context that gave it prestige. The brand, which had once dressed kings and explorers, was now associated with a completely different audience, which threatened its identity. It was a reality check. Tradition was being sold at any price. And luxury, when it loses its scarcity, also loses its charm. That's when Burberry decided to take a bold step, return to the origins, under the leadership of Christopher Bailey, and later Riccardo Tisci. The brand reclaimed the essence that Thomas Burberry had crafted in the 19th century: functionality, elegance, and purpose. It abandoned excessive prints, invested in minimalist design, and repositioned plaid as something subtle, not glaring. Burberry didn't just want to sell clothes. It wanted to sell history and heritage, and this return to roots marked the beginning of a new era. The lesson here is valuable. Starting over isn't losing, it's purifying. Just like a brand, any person or company that loses its way can reinvent itself by returning to its essence. That's how Burberry regained the respect of royal families and luxury lovers worldwide. And it's curious how, after so much reinvention, it returned exactly to its starting point. The same ideal of Thomas Burberry: to unite the useful with the beautiful, tradition with the future. A path that would culminate in its definitive consecration. The royal heritage and legacy that made Burberry synonymous with tradition, sophistication, and royalty. Today, when someone wears a Burberry piece, they're not just wearing a coat, they're wearing a symbol of lineage and heritage. The brand, officially recognized by the British royal family, has become synonymous with timeless elegance. Princes, queens, and prominent figures worldwide wear its pieces not only for their style, but for what they represent: dignity, tradition, and refinement. It's the kind of clothing that carries a story in its seams and a value that time cannot erase. Burberry understood something that few brands have. True luxury is not in the price, but in the permanence. While others chase trends, it remains true to its principles, and that's precisely what makes it timeless. Every trench coat, every scarf, every detail of the plaid carries the DNA of an empire that has survived wars, crises, and fleeting fads. And the curious thing is that the more the world changes, the more Burberry seems to remain in the same place, at the top. But perhaps Burberry's greatest secret lies in something invisible: the feeling it evokes. When wearing it, one feels not only comfort or elegance, one feels a sense of belonging. It's like carrying a piece of British history on one's shoulders, a living reminder that true nobility lies in authenticity. And of course, it is in this silent feeling of grandeur that the next chapter begins, that of the cultural and philosophical influence that luxury carries in the human imagination. Now that you know the Burberry journey, from a small, dusty tailor shop to an empire dressing kings and icons, it's worth asking, what makes something or someone withstand the test of time? Perhaps the answer lies in coherence between essence and purpose. Just as Thomas Burberry wove his vision into every detail of his creations, each of us can weave a legacy by remaining true to what we believe in, even as the world changes seasons. What if luxury, in the end, isn't about the things we own but the stories we leave behind? Think about it. What fabrics have you used to build your own personal brand? What does your name convey when you enter a room? Burberry's success lies not only in its elegance, but in the message it carries. Being authentic is the noblest way to be eternal. So if this content sparked something in you, the desire to build something lasting, to think beyond the obvious, and to understand the true value of tradition, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and continue this journey with me. There is still so much more to discover about the world of luxury, brands, and especially about what lies behind each story that time refuses to erase.